So Legends has been out for a little less than a week now, and seeing as how I've been streaming it every day with you guys and I've finally cleared the first major area, it seems like a great time to do my first official video on it, solely based on my first impressions. So this isn't a full review of the game, with a giant thesis declaring my definitive love or hatred for it. It's just a checkpoint in my adventure, meant to capture how I feel about the game so far. I'm not really one to rely on huge headline-y statements in my videos, but I guess I should start off by letting myself express my gut reaction. Man, is Legends Arceus totally a game changer. It's absolutely blowing my expectations out of the water, both the game itself in the present moment, and what that means for the Pokemon franchise going forward, and I'm not really being hyperbolic when I say that. I'm gonna dive into all these elements piece by piece, and spare you the obvious stuff, like the atmospheric landscapes, soundtracks, great new Pokemon forms, even the genius of the concept itself. So let's begin with the primary gameplay instead. The gameplay loop of Pokémon Legends Arceus is legitimately the most fun I've ever had with a Pokemon game on first playthrough. Again, this is no definitive review. I can't say I'll love how this game plays and feels in a year or more, even a month, but for now, it's well more than enough. In prior Pokemon games, the gameplay itself is very mechanical, and each element of it feels rigidly separated. You pretty much roam through a tile-based overworld, pick up items and climb through rocks, grass, or water, before you either talk to someone or run into a patch of grass, both of which will trigger roughly the same turn-based battle system, the only difference being your objective of either defeating or catching the opposing Pokemon. It again feels very mechanical due to its predictability. You know the pacing and objective of each encounter and what you'll get out of it as the player. It can be fun if you're invested in your playthrough, but Legends Arceus completely changes things up in such a massive way. One that hooks me in right off the bat in ways that I did not expect. Instead of being rigid and mechanical, the encounters in Pokémon Legends Arceus just feel so much more feel-based. Literally every encounter plays out differently due to just how many subtle details go into them. You can sneak up on Pokemon and figure out if they're going to want to fight you or if they're going to want to run away. The different temperaments of Pokemon make them feel so much more organic. No longer do they appear out of thin air in a patch of grass all in the same way. Now you've got Starlies that will fly away at the first sound like real perching birds, Shinxes that will chase after you like an energetic young cub, and even Bidoofs that will sit still and just be happy to be noticed no matter what you do. Then you've got subdivisions within these run, fight, and neutral interactions. Some Pokemon, like many Psychic and Poison types, will shoot projectiles at you from high distances. Some Pokemon will charge at you, and you can memorize their attack patterns to dodge and find the best vantage point. Outside of the context of battling them too, just the diversity of encounters is truly amazing. You can choose to camp out until morning, midday, evening, or night, to change up encounters in different areas in logical ways, like Cricketots and Starlies in the morning versus Ghastlies and Drifloons at night. That's not a particularly new aspect of the franchise, but it still plays into the complexity of encounters in a very satisfying way. Learning about all these different encounters and how to handle them makes it feel so much more organic and true to what I always imagined Pokemon to be like. Plus, once you've settled on the type of Pokemon the encounter is, you can go for a sneak shot with your Pokeballs when they aren't looking, or you can chase after them, and you can hope that you can throw the ball far enough to reach. Or you can lock them into battle so they can't escape, and you can whittle their HP down in the traditional manner. But even then, the camera is still free roam as ever, so you can walk around and watch the turn-based skirmish right there in the overworld. Or you can cut your losses and run away, while the Pokemon stays put in its habitat. All you need to do is click the run away button and you're free to move. It doesn't cut to a black screen with 5 seconds of loading time and a music change. No longer are the exploration and the battle sides of the franchise separate entities that almost feel like two different games. Now they're one and the same. They're married in a fluid mix that makes encounters feel just so much more alive. Each one's so unique and memorable just due to the different strategies that you can approach them with. So obviously encounters are just a core aspect of this game, if not the biggest. As with many recent Pokemon games, the encouragement and ease of catching new Pokemon is prevalent, which was a concern of mine going in. In newer games like Sword and Shield, and especially Let's Go, the rate at which you catch so many Pokemon to then just release them or forget about them kinda cheapens what I love most about the franchise, which is the individual bonds with Pokemon team members. These are cheapened either due to the ease of obtaining them or the rate at which I add new ones. But strangely, that does not present itself at all as an issue in Pokemon Legends. Sure, I filled up over 3 boxes of Pokemon from just the Obsidian Fieldlands, but I still feel just as bonded to my core 6 team members as any other memorable playthrough, if not more. Why? I don't know. I think I'll just chalk it up to intangibles. I think it really kind of comes down to everything I mentioned about the fluid catching, exploring, and encounter system that makes the core gameplay loop great. However, another aspect of the gameplay loop worth mentioning is the acquisition of items, particularly within the context of the new crafting system. It's tons of fun to go out and about, and just find raw materials to use as ingredients in healing items and Pokeballs. More fun than just simply finding these things in the wild area as items. It's just an added element of complexity that I really love, and I almost feel like Pokemon can't go back from here. Gathering raw materials to do stuff yourself is much more in line with what I imagine the core philosophy of the franchise to be, than simply using boatloads of earned cash to buy these things in the Pokemart. I really hope Pokemon keeps this system going forward just as much as the new encounter system. It's just another useful tool in making the world feel more immersive. However, for all the praise I have for the added complexity in those two arenas, I have just a few small complaints. Weirdly enough, abilities and held items for party members being absent bothers me a lot less in practice than it does on paper. It wasn't until I started writing this review that their absence really sunk in. But like I said in the beginning of this video, this review is a snapshot of how I feel about the game now, not my final thoughts, and for now, I weirdly don't miss those things that much. However, what I do wish this game did have is just a bit more complexity for the player. Other than your clothes and the ability to instantly summon ride Pokemon with a key item, there's very little you can do to change the attributes of your human main character, if that makes sense. The primary gripe is the Wardeer you get in the beginning of the game, and presumably the other ride Pokemon that will factor in later. But again, I've only cleared the Obsidian Fieldlands, so all I have right now is the Wardeer. It kind of feels jarring and non-immersive to have the tamed Wardeer pop out of thin air and disappear when you're done using him. It'd feel way more fun if you could tame your own Pokemon. Maybe a wider variety of rideable Pokemon like Rapidash, Luxray, Staraptor, who knows. I wish the Pokemon that you relied on for so much transportation was one that you had a closer bond with, meaning your own Pokemon. I also can't say I'm disappointed by the lack of this next thing as well, but it would be cool. I was thinking, for all the times my human character got blasted by a wild Pokemon's attack in the overworld, or I took fall damage, even drowned in rivers and lakes if I went too far in, why can't I change my fortunes with these interactions? I know there are charms you can buy in Jubilife Village that kind of do this, but why doesn't Legends Arceus have health, stamina, resistance, or strength potions for the human character? Or even just outright armor like many other survival games. It would be nice to have the ability to resist poisonous or fiery blasts from wild Pokemon, climb rocks more efficiently, invisibility or silence boosters, or just run faster to escape. Again, I can't say I'm disappointed by something I could have never expected the game to include in the first place, but it's just an idea for a higher level of complexity and immersion for the next Legends game perhaps. Another thing that I will admit I am somewhat outright disappointed by though is the disproportionate nature of the effort versus results in terms of filling out the region's first Pokédex. You have to do a fair amount of work, either by repeatedly battling or catching the same species of Pokemon, to fill out its dex entry, and that's one of the core features of the game. As much as I like doing all these things, and I think the progression to earn that entry is reasonable for most species, it's just a step in the right direction, and it could be a lot better in terms of results. What I mean by that is that you really get a colored-in model of the Pokemon, and the same 2 to 3 sentence we've always gotten. So basically you're going to be doing even more work, which to be clear is a good thing, for less results, which isn't so great. For a game largely focused on field-based research, I just wanted a bit more is all. Going into the game knowing this premise, I honestly expected the game to give us more information of these Pokemon, more illustrations or more text box entries, more scientific information on these Pokemon's habitats, behaviors, diets, physiology, and of course elemental powers, somewhat akin to a real-life field guide. For a reference of what I had in mind, go check out the World of Pokemon website. It pretty much serves as a reference for my dream Pokédex, and kind of what I thought this game would provide going in. Again, I can't say this is a game ruiner for me. Far from it. So please don't take this as me being super negative or nitpicky. I'm really just pointing this out to illustrate how much I think the research mechanic is a step in the right direction, but how much room for improvement and iteration there is in terms of the rewards for all that fun research. Now back to more positive stuff to round out this video. To get back to my main points about immersion, it kinda goes without saying that the landscape of Hisui is so satisfying to explore. The novelty of a different time period and its overall vastness kinda speaks for itself, so I won't get into that. No, my focus really lies on the population of this landscape, both human and Pokemon, so let's start off with the latter. These open areas feel so perfectly populated. Some people have complained that the world feels kind of empty and lifeless at times, but I don't really see that. The ratio of Pokemon to open space kind of feels perfect to me. Yeah, the encounters here are harder to come by than prior games with overworld Pokemon, but it feels like the right amount to me, since I'd rather have a bit more time between encounters and have to take the time to search them out in a more realistic manner than just have dozens of Pokemon pop into a cramped landscape in a very unrealistic way. These aren't enemies from a platformer game. Pokemon are analogous to real-world animals. So it does give me great joy to explore Hisui and see Starlies perched in the shade of a tree, Croagunks wading in murky swampy waters, Geodudes hiding out on mountaintops, or a shaking tree just revealing a Burmy or Combi's nest. They aren't all just standing around lifelessly anymore, and I absolutely love that. Honestly, finding that Psyduck lying on its belly in the creek gave me such a rush of joy that I haven't felt from a Pokemon game in just so long. And it honestly gives me so much enthusiasm for the future of this franchise. I could go on about other stuff, like the story and human NPCs, but again, this is a snapshot, not a review, so I don't know enough about either to comment on the quality of them or even my thoughts. I'm just along for the ride so far, and so far I am enjoying the relatively laid-back nature of the plot. It reminds me of early Pokemon games. There's a good number of fun, named NPCs, but also minor ones that give you quests in the village. They aren't just vessels for one-off dialogue lines anymore, and they make the world feel so much more alive. I love completing quests here and there, most of which involve bringing a Pokemon to a person to help them with a task like construction, or just showing them the beauty of Pokemon like the seamstress who wants to see Hippopotas's color changes, or the one who's learning about shiny Pokemon with that shiny Ponyta. It's incredibly wholesome to essentially be the person responsible for bridging the gap between the human and Pokemon cultures, and establishing the culture of modern Sinnoh through small deeds here and there. It's much more immersive and engaging to me than just arbitrarily being a chosen one to save the world, though I have a feeling that will be the plot of the game later on. Do I wish NPCs roamed around a bit more, either in the open areas or just around towns, instead of standing around in one spot? Yeah, but again, it's all about iteration here, and I'll take their much improved dialogue and roles in the game for now. So far, Legends Arceus has blown away all my expectations, and iterated far more than I ever thought it would, given that my premonitions about the game were honestly on the negative to neutral end of the spectrum. This game has already left so much room to innovate the franchise, just based on the small sliver that I've played and that I know of. So if you want a thesis for this video, that's it. I won't recommend this game like a traditional review since again, this is just a snapshot of my experiences merely a quarter of the way through the game, if that. But I think if anyone really is hesitant about the game like I was, if they do play Legends Arceus, they would have their minds changed quickly like I did. So those are my thoughts about Pokemon Legends Arceus so far. Please let me know what you think of the games down below, and I hope your adventures through Hisui are as fun as I'm having. Now, I'm off to play some more of this great game. Don't forget, if you're watching this video when it comes out, I'm streaming my playthrough of Legends Arceus right here on this channel every day this week from 10 AM to noon Pacific time. After that, I'll be setting a schedule for weekly streams. So stay tuned for that, and please subscribe so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more content.